Hi, I like The X-Files. So much so that even though it's over 20 years old now, makes me feel old, I've begun watching it from the start again, which has been quite interesting because, I was only sort of 10 or so, a little older, when it first came out. And so there are certain thoughts that I perhaps wasn't mature enough to get, and it's quite interesting to revisit it with a more adult mindset. Like many people these days, I've been watching it through digital media, because it's the easiest way to watch things these days. This that you're watching right now is digital media. It's recorded on a digital camcorder onto a memory card, encoded, uploaded, and boom. Here you are. Thank you, by the way. But that got me thinking a little. Digital media, And is this that you're watching now less real than me recording it at the time that I do this right now? Does it make it less real because it's not actually me there talking to you, which would be rather creepy? I mean, it's probably less real than film, you might say, because it's not just captured onto actual celluloid film. It's digital, so it's ones and zeros. It's data having to make sure it's constructed in the proper way to be represented on screen. But as I say, is it less real? Now, I'm not going to go into massive video editing details, but part of the process is to encode it, like I say. Now, when that happens, a lot of the time, data will be lost. Often minimal, barely noticeable. But when you say, watch a video that's, say, really low quality, like 240p or something like that, and you see, all the big pixels and things like that, that's data that's lost. None of that sort of fidelity and resolution data, is there to make it nice and clear and crisp. So, data's clearly lost there. So is it less real, though? It's a really strange thought to have, in a way, but, it is a question that I've thought about a lot, and particularly with, I suppose, the Problem of Other Minds video that I did. If you haven't watched it, it's there. But that, sort of the idea that, other people's minds may not exist, so other people may not be real. This kind of, I suppose, is a little similar to that. Is a video like this less real than a film, or than me sat there? Because the information's still there. The words are still there. Again, though, encoded as audio. But it's there. Now, it's interesting to think of how digital media has evolved, because, like a lot of people, I have ebooks. I also have real books on the bookshelf back there, but I do like the convenience of ebooks. Take them anywhere, not have to worry about the pages getting wet or anything like that, not have to worry about it getting lost, because really, most people are probably better at keeping tabs on their phones and tablets than they are an actual hard copy book. But then I was thinking, well, are those less real than books, if you will? Actual hard copy books. Are they less real? Well, in both cases, again, the information is still there, but it's the data, it's the ones and zeros that are portraying that. So, if you think of a book that you really loved as a child, that you perhaps get as an adult, to revisit those memories. Now, the ebook you have might have a different typeface, hard set into it. I know in most e-readers you can change the font style, but it's unlikely you'll probably end up with exactly the same as the hard copy. Sometimes illustrations aren't carried over because it simply is extra data. It can, it means that they can actually issue smaller ebooks, which is better for people because they can have more. So it's not quite the same. But again, is it less real? Now, when we're thinking about books, of course, one type of book that a lot of us have probably come into contact with, especially through formal education systems, are history books. And there's a great phrase, of course, that says, history is always written by the victor, as it were. And that is very true. If you sort of look at, sort of diaries from times that major events happened, and major wars and things like that, from both sides, they're very different. And a lot of time, from the losing side, there's information in there that is just omitted when the victor puts forth, if you will, the official story. So does that history, that written history, have less reality than than the oral tradition, as it were? Which brings me back to the X-Files, because one thing in particular that came to mind was the early part of season 3, when Walter's injured. He's helped back to health by a sort of Navajo tribe on a reservation, and there's very interesting points put forward, and a nice sort of insight into indigenous peoples' kind of traditions and belief systems. And I love that. I lap that up. And again, revisiting as an adult, really nice to sort of be able to understand it better. But there was an interesting line that I'll sort of paraphrase here, which is that when things are written down, made official and made hard copy, they're not real. It's just a one account, and it's immutable, compared to memory, which burns like a fire. It feeds, it seeks out fuel and grows. And I love that idea. Memory is more fluid, like fire. I like the analogy to fire, and how that blooms and sort of, as I say, just consumes more. But written history is just flat and boring. I mean, when you consider that the comparison to digital and hard copy that I made before, you can also make that comparison with the memory and the written form. That's not real. That document there, that's not real. What's real is in here. What is remembered. And if you consider when you were growing up, no one comes out of the womb able to read and write. So there is that period in our lives where our learning is entirely oral and visual and experience-based, memory-based. And much of that period is learning just how to exist, which is kind of a bit more important than knowing what happened in 1066. So memory is the real. What we remember is a lot more important than what's written down. And the oral tradition is a great example of a cultural method of passing on information, but that has that personal touch, that reality. So maybe when we're looking at virtuality and reality, it's not about ones and zeros or film or paper, but about people behind it, the memories of those who made it. So pay attention to the world around you and tell people. And until next time, take care.